Cain, I am so excited to have you here today. Are you excited to be here?
I am beyond excited, Judiann. I can think of no place I'd rather be than in the seat next to you right now.
Thank you so much. You know, for people who don't know Straightaway, I mean, talk about an incredible success story. I feel very privileged because I feel like I got to witness this from the very beginning. But tell them in your own words what Straightaway is all about.
Yeah. Well, first of all, was one of my favorite memories of this brand is you walking into the tasting room over 5 years ago and kicking the tires on our cocktails and giving us a sip. We set out to just make sure that everybody could have a world-class cocktail at home, and we loved this category. We were cocktail enchanted going back decades. We lived to host, and we realized through hosting and making drinks painstakingly one at a time at all the parties that we were having in our house, that batching a cocktail could be a really great solve for folks. And our ability to enjoy something like this as easily as you enjoy one of the best wines and beers we have from this region, we just want to make it that easy to have a great cocktail. And
right, because as we all know, like when you're hosting a big party, you're making all the cocktails, especially because you want to make the cocktails because you're like a cocktail guy, right? Yep. But you're there shaking and mixing and all this stuff, and you don't even get to talk to everybody, right?
That's right. Yeah, you're kind of stuck behind the bar, and we're so used to just bringing in a bottle of red, or we bring in our 6-pack of beer as we're joining the party, and that is just, it's perfectly acceptable. That's just how you do it. And having the ability to come in with a cocktail or leave cocktails out for people to enjoy at their own terms was a huge unlock that we wanted to bring to the world.
Well, I love the fact that, I love cocktails too, but, most of the times the cocktails I like have multiple ingredients, multiple steps. And like when I'm hosting, I'm making a 2-ingredient cocktail, right? Not that interesting, whatever. But you've taken all that guesswork out and you just open it, like open a can, crack open a bottle, like whatever, like it's perfect, and you have done such a good job of this, truly.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty arbitrary that we're all expected to be at-home world-class mixologists, and if we're going to make a margarita, that you would have the 6 ingredients that you need at home to make your margarita. And how many folks are that ready all the time to host, and how many people would have the acumen to build something that tastes like what you had in a great restaurant? So we wanted to help.
For the people who cannot see what we have in front of us, we have quite the assortment of beverage options. Do you want to walk us through some of the things that we have?
Yeah, so we set out to kind of scratch the itch of some of the classics right off the bat. And so on the table you have this old-fashioned, we call it our Oregon old-fashioned, and essentially a version of this very cocktail was something that my co-founder Casey would make at his home when he was hosting almost 20 years ago. And he would make his own bitters out of fir needle and filberts.
Oh my God, he's so Oregonian, right? All the Oregonian makers, they do everything the hardest way possible, right?
The longest way possible, that's right. And with local terroir too, and we're blessed with all these amazing things that grow here in the Willamette Valley. So wonderful. He put that to work and was making a version of that. This was a version of the margarita that I was making 20 years ago for friends and family, and so those were 2 classics and standards that we wanted to start with. We have a Negroni, it's not on the table right now, but a number of other kind of staple classic cocktails. To our left, we have our Paloma, and Paloma got started when Squirt Squirt made it over the border in Mexico, and someone had paired tequila and Squirt together. And so what you just said about taking the long way as Northwest and Oregonians, we build our own in-house bougie version of Squirt, and so we make a grapefruit, pink peppercorn, tamarind soda to pair with tequila.
A bougie Squirt. I love Squirt. You don't see it so often, but I actually really love Squirt.
It's a wonderful invention, Squirt.
So for people who can't see, we have cocktails in bottles and cocktails in cans. So
yeah. For the cans, by and large, these are going to be our cocktails that are sparkling in our taller cans. We also have our bigger bottles, which will serve 10 to 12 servings, and then our little tiny can of the same drink. So that's 1 margarita in that little can and the big
margarita. I feel like we should crack open that 1 margarita.
Let's do it.
Right?
Let's do it. Let's shake that up.
I'm ready for the fizz.
See if I can get this. There we go.
That's very satisfying. Oh, very nice.
Absolutely. Cheers. So that has, we aged the tequila to a reposado to kind of introduce a barreled, oaky, kind of tanniny note that stops it from getting too sweet. And then obviously being, again, kind of a episode of Portlandia. We make fun of ourselves all the time for all the steps that we take to get a cocktail right, but we partner with a third-generation citrus farm in Southern California. They fresh press the juice. It comes all the way up I-5 in a cold truck, into our cold tank, into our cold can, so that it smells and tastes like fresh lime juice because it is. And then mezcal from a little micro mezcal maker in Mexico, and Jacobson sea salt just from the Oregon coast here, knee tarts. And so you get this really lovely, complex marg with also some mango habanero syrup for a little heat.
I love that you work with so many local partners, and you highlight kind of very local ingredients. Obviously, the citrus. When you said you get the citrus, I remember back in the day when you had your juicing citrus on the sidewalk outside of your tasting room on Hawthorne's.
Yeah, if you'd come by back in the day, it was like one of those old hot dog on a stick type of juicing.
Those kind of rotation, whatever, you know.
It was hilarious, and we'd put that out on the sidewalk.
It smelled great.
Yeah, the whole neighborhood kind of smelled.
Yeah, it was aromatherapy for the whole neighborhood. I loved it. And you've grown so much since then, because, you know, you were making cocktails back in the back of that tasting room, and now you have this huge facility cranking out all these different cocktails.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a small, tight fit at first. There was only 1,000 square feet of production space, and literally desks were whiskey barrels, and our team would have to move a whiskey barrel to get to whatever they needed to get in the back. And yeah, over time, we've been able to move into larger facilities to kind of help make sure we're keeping up. But you can come by and see where it all started on 9th and Hawthorne for sure. It's pretty humble.
Well, I remember when you talked about that story of me coming in and tasting your cocktails, because, you know, I was a little skeptical because, you know, you see lots of canned cocktails and batch cocktails and stuff, and they're generally not that great. And so, you know, somebody who I respect very much suggested going in and meeting you just because you're a great guy and, you know, they were doing work with you. But I was like, let me taste these cocktails first. Let me taste it because I don't want to put my name or association with it. And I remember, you know, going a little skeptical, but being really impressed because the citrus tasted so fresh that you can taste all the different layers of flavors, and it definitely didn't have that kind of weird, I don't know, pasteurized, canned kind of flavor, kind of like it's been sitting too long.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the category largely is built, 99% built in kind of co-packing flavor house type of production facilities where they're doing their level best to approximate real lime juice by making lime number 48 and lime number 52. And 8 years ago, before we launched, we had them send us those same ingredients just to see if we could replicate what the best bars in Portland were making or New York were making. And it turns out the only way you really make a great cocktail is using real ingredients and real juice and real bitters and simples the way a great bar would do it. And so that's a level of intentionality that we, you know, knew we wanted to do. We had to cross off the box of, is there another way to kind of shortcut and hardwire to get to a great flavor profile? And it turns out there certainly is not. The secret is using real ingredients and the same techniques that a great bar would.
Well, let me tell you, you've won all the awards. So I used to say you should put your awards up because I think people are impressed by the medals, right? So there's so many medals. All your cocktails have won so many, like double gold, platinum gold. What is it? What's your latest?
The latest was platinum for our Marigold. And, you know, I give huge credit to our production team. We have such a talented group of makers on our team, enologists and folks that spend a lot of time in beer and bring us some amazing beer brands to life as well. And that Marigold, it's our Amaro. It's a sunny, warm Amaro. It's not very bitter. It's just a really gentle, lovely spirit. And we built that so that we could make a paper plane or something like an Aperol Spritz, just because we love that vibe and that Spritz culture from Europe, the botanical, herbaceous kind of flavor. So
you're building a cocktail, you need an ingredient, rather than use another, you just make it yourself.
Yeah. So getting back to us being an episode of Portlandia, because it takes Amaro and it takes liqueur and vermouth to make a proper cocktail. If you go to a bar, they have this amazing back bar with bottles and bottles and bottles they can pick from. We didn't have that luxury as a distillery. If we're going to make cocktails, we had to build our own base ingredients. And so we created our own liqueur, Amaro, and vermouth, which is, there's a lot of reasons people don't do that. It's a lot of work.
Right, it's a lot of work.
But we built that Marigold that won Best of Show, the two biggest awards we really can win in our industry.
Yeah, Best of Shows.
It was
I can't.
huge.
Yeah, it's so huge. I can't. When you say best of show, I can't help but think of the dog show.
Right. All those guys are great.
In that movie, right?
100%. Yeah, A Mighty Wind or whatever the other one was they
That was
made.
so funny.
But we built that just so we could make a paper plane
Yeah.
and just so we could make a really great spritz with it. So it was a back bar ingredient from us that just happened to be a liqueur that went out and competed against, the European makers, generational makers, and it came back as top of the heap. So to me, I tell that story to really kind of pat our production team on the back and their skill and their talent level, but also just as Oregonians, you're in the food scene, the beverage scene here, and I think we all just feel so great when our state represents at those kind of national levels and international competitions. So that's a fun one to share out with the world.
It's a lot of pride. I mean, it really is an Oregon brand. It represents so well. But, it's available nationally, right? Talk about all the ways that people from not locally can get Straightaway.
Sure. Yeah. If you are following us on Instagram or if you visit our website, we have a straightawaycocktails.com and you can get on a shop, and we ship to over, I think it's 42 states now that we can ship to. And so both the Straightaway side of what we do and the accompanied, the Amaro liqueur and vermouth side of what we do is available in 42 states. And you're welcome to come on a shop.
And you can now sip Straightaway when you're flying, right? I thought that was the coolest thing, right? Because everybody, when you fly, everyone wants to have a drink, right? And you get the little bottles or whatever. I know that was a long time coming. It was a lot of work went into that. I mean, how amazing! Tell them more about that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, before we even launched, it made all the sense in the world that we would partner with Alaska. There's such a great organization, a company. They've done such a nice job of supporting local West Coast makers and particularly Pacific Northwest makers. And to your point, like the experience of trying to make a cocktail on a flight is fraught. And
plus you're on vacation. So people, I know people travel for work and stuff like that, but like I associate flying with like good times, vacation, and the vacation starts as soon as you get on the plane, as far as I'm concerned, right? And the idea of like having a cocktail and looking at that blue sky experience, you're giving people that. It's so nice.
Yeah, it's been really fun to partner with them, and we're coming up on year 2 of the program, and we'll have, by the time this goes live, you should be able to get a new cocktail on Alaska Airlines from us. The margarita's been on there for the last 2 years, and in comes our Bee's Knees.
Oh, wow.
A classic old school pre-prohibition cocktail, and features local Pacific Northwest honey as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to look for that for sure. So
yeah.
What do you not do, It was just like your brainchild. I think one of the things that I am really so proud to know you really is because you've created such a great brand in Straightaway. And I know for people who haven't seen the packaging, people always comment on the packaging because each label is very unique. It tells a story. There's always a really fun read on the back of the bottle or the can. And I feel like you want to give it as a gift. You want to like introduce somebody to maybe a cocktail they're not familiar with. Talk about that branding process.
Yeah, I think everything for us, like to me, it's really important that everything levels up the brand. So whether or not the liquid has to be there, so does our connection with the customer, the guest, or folks trying us for the first time. And we wanted to create a brand that was intentionally kind of inviting everybody into the party. And cocktail culture could be kind of exclusionary. Like it felt like if I don't know X, Y, and Z ingredient, I can't order that drink. And I think from our standpoint, people being able to come in and just have little sips at our tasting room, just like when you came in, and rightfully so, you were skeptical coming in and tasting it. I think for us, it's an opportunity to bring cocktail curious to the table, and the cocktail enchanted, who have always loved cocktail culture, allowing them to try new drinks that maybe you're not ready to plunk $18 down at the bar to see if I like a paper plane or not, but you can try it in a little tiny cup at one of our tasting rooms and find out for yourself. Okay, I'm a paper plane fan, or I'm a Negroni fan, and I didn't know that I was. And
cocktail curious. Really fun. What was the other one you said?
Cocktail enchanted. We talk about those folks a lot as well. We're all cocktail enchanted.
You're so good with these little phrases and stuff like that. It's like, do you just, I don't know, did they come from your background? Like, tell people what you did before, because you've done a lot. You're like an entrepreneur. Like you think of these things in the shower.
There's some shower stuff that happens for sure where I'm thinking about what comes next. But yeah, I don't know. I've just always really liked helping build things or being a part of building something. I did a startup out of college for 3 years. Great lesson. We didn't make it. Another great lesson. There's
you learn the most when something kind of fails. It doesn't really fail because you learn so much in the process, right?
So true. So true. It was the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
And then there was just this little coffee company that was just getting going in the mid-90s. And
Starbucks.
And I joined there, and I was there for 11 years. And tons of beverage exposure around that, and cupping the world's coffees and teas. I think in a lot of ways kind of set my palate up for spirits and cocktails down the road. But I just think it's really, I love the idea of like how do you do something that's uniquely in your voice, but also is best of class in solving a problem.
Right.
Those things to me are the most useful things to be a part of building. And that's where we want to show up. We want to elevate the category. We want to elevate people's opportunities to have a properly made drink, but also have a little bit of fun while you're doing it. And
I feel like you're kind of describing me. Like I want to elevate the situation, but I want to make it fun. I mean, I'm working on my personal brand right now to relaunch my brand. I have a website coming, and I would love to get your eyeballs on it because I really respect your opinion about things, and then asking people who I trust, who are good at what they do, to kind of help me figure out like who I am, because we all see each other. We see ourselves one way, and we don't know how the world perceives us. You're the only one in Portland who gave myself a nickname, which I think is hilarious, because when I lived in New York, I had a billion nicknames. I had so many nicknames. And I came here, and you immediately gave me a nickname. What do you call me?
It was high time. We had to get your handle out here, J-Dubs.
J-Dubs.
J-Dubs is in the house, 100%. Yeah, well, I just nicknamed folks I just really love. So, Judiaann, you earned that and then some. And I think, if you talk to me or any other Portland brand or makers or founders or people that just are really passionate about what they do, you're so good at seeing the through line for what makes that brand or that idea tick. You're really good at connecting the dots and bringing people together. And I would say just the ability to kind of see what people are trying to do, encapsulate that, and retell it for other folks. That's a real skill. To be able to get into somebody else's vision and be able to articulate that and why that would matter to your audience and who you're talking to. That's a pretty impressive skill set. And I think too, just working on a number of projects with you, your ability to see how it needs to be done and see it from 30,000 feet, but also get down and make sure that it gets executed on the level that it needs to. That's an exceptional trait to have, and you bring that to the table.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I mean, that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, because I come and do these projects fresh, because I don't work for these brands necessarily. I come in on a project, I see what they're doing, and it's always really great. But my job coming in fresh is to see what we can do to like level it up, to think about it, expand it, like make, increase the engagement, like problem solve at the same time. But I think of everything as like making everything a little bit better. That's why I feel like if you were involved in any project, even not Straightaway, like you're like the go-to guy, bring inside, like make it better, right?
That'd be an honor if that was the case. But I think what I love about our city and who it attracts, it's people that really care about what they're doing.
Right.
And I put you right at the front of that list. And I think that that's just it's a secret sauce that we have here that I'll tell you what, I was just on a call with somebody we work with in New York, and they're just like, I cannot believe you guys would recommend another distillery to somebody, or you'd hype up somebody else in your same category.
I love that too.
It just was mind-blowing to them. And we have something really unique and special here. So I think it's fun to have that connective tissue and have folks like you helping bring the fabric of that together for this city and state.
Because we care. We're like this bleeding heart kind of Portlanders. We care so much that we're willing to give business to somebody else because, they're doing an amazing job. We want to lift them up too. We're only as great as everybody. Like we all need to rise up together, right? You can't just win on your own. Yeah,
and I think it's important to tell that story now more than ever. I think we maybe took a little bit for granted pre-pandemic, but with everything that we've gone through collectively as a society here, and just bringing it back to like people that live here tend to really care about what they're doing and doing it right. And I think that's kind of the secret heartbeat of this city and of the state too. There's connective tissue there for all of us that are passionate about doing that.
Maybe tell folks about the Cascade Spritz, because this is a really fun project.
Yeah, Wyden and Kinney last year, getting at that same kind of thread that we were just talking about, came forward last year and really want to kind of bring connectivity back to the city and people working together to make it the way we want to be here. And they started their Portland is What We Make It campaign, and we were able to partner with them on a collab concept for a cocktail. And 1%, we do 1% for the planet, and we do 1% for human rights, which dovetailed really nicely into what they were doing and trying to get done. And so with the proceeds of that can, 10% goes to Friends of Trees, which is another great organization. They just planted their millionth tree this last year, and I think to date I think in this last year we've done over $10,000 to Friends of Trees already, which is, the team feels really proud about that. That was a fun project.
It's wonderful. Yeah, and I think for people who don't know, White & Kenny is like the best ad agency in the world, right? I mean, they do Nike, they do, I mean, that's what I worked, they were the agency and record when I worked for Travel Oregon.
Yeah.
Amazing. But it's so fun to see that Portland is What We Make It campaign, the posters around town, and you know, there's this whole kind of, it's so nice to see people having a little bit of pride again, because we were all kind of hurt after the pandemic and all the stuff that happened as a result, and Portland really got beat up. But you know, what's your thought on it? Thought on the subject? Is Portland coming back?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't think it really ever left. I just feel like there's a lot of different things happened at the same time, and I think a lot of Portland really dug in and stood up for the right stuff during that point in time. And I think a lot of people stayed because they want to see it through. Didn't shut doors, didn't move out of town, and I really applaud the folks that have really seen to it that we're going to get things right back on track. Yeah, I think you already can see that we're already starting to get things back on track. And in our industry, in our world, you're seeing these green shoots kind of coming up through the ground of new folks coming into this, you know, into the Portland area and Oregon area to start their thing. And what's happening out in McMinnville's pretty amazing. What's happening out in Bend and Redmond's been really amazing to watch happen. Astoria as well. So there's just a lot of, and of course Hood River keeps doing what Hood River's doing, but there's just a lot of really positive shoots, I think. And you know, any story, you're gonna have moments of things are really on a high and things kind of have to get maybe looked at and addressed. And I think that's what we've had a moment to do these last few years and get it on a good track.
Well, one thing I really like that you've always talked about, you know, you are a company that makes cocktails, but you always talk about cocktails in relation to food, right? So you're very much food and cocktails, cocktails and experience and all that kind of stuff. So you think about from the consumer point of view, the person, the end user, the joy that they're going to have pairing that cocktail with food. And you do work with quite a few chefs, and you have something coming up, I think, did I hear breakfast? Something with breakfast?
Oh, Judiann, I'm glad you mentioned that. Let me pull this out. So we have a membership program and model, and every 3 months we do a 2-bottle drop, and people don't get to know what's coming in their drop. It's a decoder kind of a mystery. We call it our Secret Sipper Club.
Secret Sipper Club.
And it's just been so fun to put it out there for folks to figure out what's coming next. We give little clues, and they're going to get a little bit of a hint about what's coming next. But this allows us to make things without having to really consider scale at this point. We're just testing and learning a little bit with cocktails with some really bespoke ingredients. And so another really great Portland maker brand, Sebastiano, is pulling all their family history out of Sicily and bringing some really amazing Italian products to Portland. I don't know if you guys have had their orange marmalade, if you've seen it at New Seasons.
Oh, it comes in a little jar. It's just decadent. You can stir it into things, smooth it on things. It's like rub it on your body. It's so delicious.
I've got some behind my ears right now, Judiann. And then we make our own orange liqueur and our own dry vermouth that goes in here, and it's gin as well. And it kind of thinking about day parting too, like in the morning, there are certain kind of flavor profiles that I think are really fun to hit. And so this breakfast martini kind of gives you a cue, like, oh, when would I have this? I wonder.
As soon as you roll out of bed is when you have it, right? Yeah.
And so that one just went out to our members, shipped out 2 weeks ago. But that's been a really fun thing to do. And to your point around chefs, like we hold them in such high regard. And I would say bartenders and mixologists and bar program managers, I hold them in the same esteem. And they're the inspiration for our brand. We're trying to honor what they're doing at the highest levels of craft. To me, they're artists, and that's alchemy in a glass. And what we want to do is see how close we can come to approximating that. Chefs inspire us daily. We just got back from the Hot Luck Festival. You mentioned
Oh,
Mike.
I love potluck. Yeah, I didn't go to this year, but I saw you last year, and I had major FOMO because I saw you all were having just a great time.
It's just insane. Like in our row, I think there's probably 8 or 9 James Beard nominees in our row, and that's maybe like 5 booths. And so it's just such a collection of people who care about food, and for us to be able to provide maybe a drink that's on the table so that you can focus on all the ingredients that you're baking with, or getting the steak just right, or the salad just right, it's one less thing to have to worry about that evening, the same way you'd not be thinking about the Pinot Noir except for where's your bottle opener.
It's a public service. I feel like you have offered people this public service of being able to enjoy a fine beverage without the labor.
We're here for the
or
people.
the effort.
Judiann.
Yes.
We're here for the people and their drinking needs.
Well, thank you, Sai. I feel like it's so great. Well, should we have a little sample of that before we leave?
100% we should.
And then what should we look forward to coming up? Like, I feel like you guys are always launching something new.
Yeah, so I had mentioned we will look for us on Alaska Airlines in July with our Bees Knees midway through. We're really excited about that. There will be another cocktail boarding Alaska Airlines in the fall as well. Really excited about that. And then we have save a little money on the side for your holiday gifting and your cocktail needs, because we have a really cool program launching with a national retailer.
Yeah, I heard.